to the Creative Insomniac. In this podcast, I will discuss the sacrifices and the struggles of being a creative professional. I will motivate you to get your ass up and put your foot down. Stop procrastinating and do what you have to do to make sure your dreams become a reality. Because there is a creative professional in all of us. We all have something that we strive for, something that keeps us awake at night. They say the creative is the child that survived. Well, I came to play. I am your host, Selena LeBron, and I am the Creative Insomniac. All right, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of The Creative Insomniac. I am your host, Selena LeBron. Please do not forget to give us a like if you enjoyed today's episode and subscribe on whichever platform you get your podcasts. So today's topic is going to be a little bit all over the place because this is kind of an introductory episode. I'm just getting my feet wet. I've never done a podcast, and that's kind of the whole creative process. It's a learning curve for me, just sitting here talking on a microphone. I'm used to singing and taking photographs, and you'll learn more about that and more about me later on as we get into things. I'd also like to take this time to use this platform and to say that my heart and my mind is with those that are peacefully trying to protest the injustice and inequality of the Black and brown community. I am the daughter of a half Black, half white woman and a half Black and half Puerto Rican man. As children, my siblings and I were always told to be mindful of police officers. See, we grew up in the South Bronx. We were taught to be respectful and to mind our business. And that still didn't stop my brothers from being accosted and harassed by the police on a daily basis. Simple things like walking to the corner store somehow turned into a life or death situation. Our simple existence seemed to set them off into a rage. I was 7 years old, heading to the corner store with my brothers when we were stopped one day, and my brothers were physically thrown against the concrete wall and searched, and then slammed onto the ground and questioned. I remember my brother screaming at me to run home and go get mommy because he didn't have his ID with him, and I remember the officer laughing and repeating, "Yeah, go get mommy," as he proceeded to twist my brother's arm behind his back and shove his face deeper into the gravel and broken bits of glass on the floor. I remember being scared that he was going to get shot like Amadou Diallo, who had just been recently killed 2 blocks down from our home. I remember hearing all the shots from my bedroom window. Even at a young age, I understood that what was happening was the targeted, systematic mistreatment of people of color. We need real change in the way officers interact with the Black and brown community. People of color have been hurting for centuries, and anyone that can't understand why Black people feel oppressed should try to educate themselves and have an open heart conversation with someone of color from the older generation. Let them tell you what their lives have been like, and then have that same conversation with a younger person from the Black and brown community and see if you can spot a difference. See if you can spot the difference between the generations. You know why? You can't? Because nothing has changed. It's gotten progressively worse. People are sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. How many more mothers have to bury their young Black sons, husbands, brothers, uncles? How many more Black families have to cry out in pain and demand answers and change as the deaths of their loved ones goes viral over and over and still no justice is served? So if you're a person who feels inconvenienced by the protest, or if you can't understand what the issue is, then you, my friend, or I should say not my friend, are part of the problem. When Black lives matter, that's when all lives will matter. First and foremost, I'd like to take this moment to thank everyone for supporting my podcast and supporting me on my new creative endeavor. I am utterly out of my element, but that's life, right? You have to step outside of your comfort zone and try something new. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. So today's topic is going to be famous artists of all mediums that have suffered from insomnia, how it's positively or negatively affected their creative process. I'd like to premise this segment and actually this entire podcast with a little disclaimer that I, Selena LeBron, in no shape or form am suggesting that insomnia can enhance your creative process. I am speaking from personal experience with insomnia as well as the experiences from those I may interview throughout the course of this show. I am in no shape or form promoting the ideology of using lack of sleep to help your creative process. Thank you. This has been a public service announcement. So, throughout history, artistic creativity has been linked to insomnia. Whether the artist was a musician or a visual artist, photographer, graphic designer, painter, writers, etc., artists of all mediums have been known to have pushed themselves to the edge of their physical and psychological limits during periods of wakefulness. Now, this begs the question, is this a form of artistic strategy or a sign of deteriorating mental health? Evidence collected from studies done by psychologists such as Otto Loei, who wrote his Nobel Peace Prize winning idea the night before Easter in 1920. He did this by experimenting with his own sleep, and he found that while we sleep, our brain's nerve cells communicate chemically, exchanging neurotransmitters. These findings help gather a deeper understanding of how sleep affects the brain and its development. Also, in 2015, Princeton National Health and Wellness Survey reported that 37% of U.S. adults experienced insomnia or sleep difficulties over the previous year, and that 55% of all adults have problems with insomnia in their lifetime. Did you know more than 70 million Americans suffer from various sleep disorders, and 60% of those report severe sleeping disorders? Medical evidence has shown that lack of sleep can severely impair driving. It can cause faulty perceptions, cognitive impairment, and lower performance. If untreated for prolonged lengths of time, insomnia can have devastating or even fatal effects. Anxiety, depression, cardiovascular disease, and even death can occur. There was this romanticized perception about insomnia in the creative world. The fire, energy, and spark that drives the creative engine in us doesn't sleep. We draw inspiration from everything, including our dreams, even if we aren't asleep to have them. Artists such as Vincent van Gogh, Tomoko Takashi, Tracy Emin, Vladimir Nabokov, who stated sleep is the most moronic fraternity in the world, and I wholeheartedly agree. Marcel Proust and Salvador Dali, just to name a few, have used their insomnia and bouts with wakefulness to their artistic advantage. Salvador Dali attempted to tap into his subconscious by sitting upright in a chair all night while dozing off and holding a spoon in his hand. These methods of artistic strategy no longer seem appealing. They don't fit in today's aesthetic and standards and obsession of getting the full 8 hours of sleep every night. Yet, here we are. Creating is a part of our physical and mental being, and it's extremely hard to just switch that off and get some much needed sleep. It's like trying to hit the brakes on a speeding train. Speaking from personal experience, for example, the artwork for this podcast came to me in a flash while I was coming to the end of a week-long battle with sleeplessness. It was 4 a.m. on a Thursday. The sky was beginning to turn light blue and pink. I was wide awake and unable to fall asleep because the moment I closed my eyes, my mind was going 100 miles per hour. I would suddenly get inspired to try something new and open my laptop, type in youtube.com or Google and start searching and researching whatever it was that popped into my head at the time. Let me just give you a small glimpse of what my thought process is like. I would love to go on a nature walk with my camera right now and catch the sunrise. I haven't edited some photos in a really long time. I need to organize my memory chips. Where are my memory chips? Where's my camera? I should organize my photos into categories like nature, city landscape, people, fashion, pets, family. Ooh, I should create more folders. I should have set up my camera in the backyard and did a time lapse. I wonder what a 360 time lapse of the sunrise would look like. Ooh, I should put that video on my YouTube channel. I really need to update my YouTube channel. I need to update the artwork for my YouTube channel. I should make sure the artwork for my YouTube channel match the artwork for the podcast. I've been up all night and I should probably try to stay awake all day so I can reset my sleep schedule. I should probably have 2 more cups of coffee. I wonder if I could build a new desk. I should add some shelves. I maybe should update my closet. I wonder. And it goes on and on and on until the next thing I know, it's 8 a.m. and the rest of the day is a blur. My eyes become hazy and I am sluggish and lethargic. And when I finally do sleep, it isn't for very long. And the sleep isn't very soundly. Psychologists conducted another recent study supporting a theory of creative insomnia that found evidence that during sleep and wakefulness, the brain searches for analogies between unrelated ideas, images, and objects, which basically means that in a conscious yet sleep-deprived state, we are able to think creatively and outside of the box. This poses a question, again, mental deterioration or artistic strategy? Where does the line start and where does it end? Let's talk a little more about Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh is one of the most well-known insomniacs. He experienced sleeplessness during his struggle with mental health and eventually was committed to an asylum. 1888 to 1889 is referred to as the most prolific period in terms of artistic production. It was coined as the Arles period. Art historian Joachim Pissarro claimed that Vincent van Gogh lived at night and didn't sleep until 3 or 4 in the morning. It was during the night hours that his experiments with imagination and memory went the furthest. So one of the most widely known and accepted diagnosis for Vincent van Gogh is bipolar disorder. Given his manic outbursts of energy and creativity, followed by long debilitating depressions. Felix Ray, Van Gogh's doctor in Arles, diagnosed him with epilepsy, though that has been dismissed by many modern scholars. On December 23rd, 1888, Vincent van Gogh and another artist got into an altercation. During the altercation, Vincent van Gogh pulled out a knife and turned the knife on himself, cutting off his left earlobe. He wrapped the bloody ear in a paper and delivered it to a woman at a local brothel before passing out in his room. When he was discovered the next day, he had no memory of his self-mutilation. Definitely a sign of a psychotic break. So I would have to say that insomnia had a negative impact on him, maybe? Or was it just all part of his creative process? So there is a common theme among insomniacs in the creative profession. Now, we spoke about Vincent van Gogh and his reaction to lack of sleep. We spoke how it negatively impacted his work. However, we are talking about Vincent van Gogh, which means at some point this had a positive effect on his work. He is a widely known, famous artist. And the effort he put into his work goes without saying. I mean, he is in the history books. He is famous. And this lack of sleep and his creative strategy played a part in that. And I say that to say this. On the other side of that, there is also other artists such as the singer-songwriter Mariah Carey, which in an interview with The Guardian, Mariah Carey discussed having a breakdown. She said she had been working too much. Now, this interview was conducted in 2002. Mariah Carey goes on to say that the bottom line is that I was severely exhausted. I've always had trouble with insomnia. It's more falling asleep than staying asleep, especially when I've been performing or doing interviews. There's a certain amount of adrenaline that goes along with that. And when I'd finally unwind and go to sleep, I'd be woken in another couple of hours to speak to someone in Australia. And then they'd say, oh, there are just a couple more reporters and they're going to ride with you in the car. And there was no downtime. Recently at the time of the article, she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So there is a common thread there between lack of sleep and bipolar disorder. And there are other artists on the Insomniac list as well. And I mean like really, really big ticket, widely known artists. And this is why it poses the question if it's part of the artistic strategy, because you have famous people such as George Clooney, Mariah Carey, Chuck Palahniuk, Renee Zellweger, Roxane Gay, Kim Cattrall, Jennifer Aniston, Pete Wentz, Christina Applegate, and the list goes on and on and on. And you see the correlation between the creative process, insomnia, and the fact that the majority of these celebrities have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Now, is this a result of the damage done from the lack of sleep? Or did the disorder help contribute to the insomnia and the creativity? The influx of creativity was just the byproduct of both. I'll leave you guys with that. You let me know what you think. Send me a voice message. If you're on Anchor, you know what that is. You can send me a voice message. Or you can send me an email and tell me what you think. My email is thecreativeinsomniacbrand@gmail.com. All right, so I know that topic was a little all over the place, but again, like I said in the beginning, this episode is kind of like an introductory episode. I was just kind of testing the waters and seeing what I could talk about, putting something out there to see what you guys want to hear and what you like. So now we're going to go into our next segment, which is a bit of a game. And it's called Name That Insomniac. So I'm going to give you some facts about each artist, and you tell me if you can figure out which one of these celebrities have suffered from insomnia. All right, first up. I am known as the Queen of Pop. I have been in movies such as A League of Their Own, Swept Away, and Evita. I have 14 studio albums, 3 soundtracks, and 5 live albums. Who am I? If you guessed Madonna, you are correct. All right, next artist. I am the Mother Monster. I'm 34 years old. I recently starred in a major motion film as Bradley Cooper's love interest. Who am I? That should be a pretty easy one. I think I made that one a little too easy. If you guessed Lady Gaga, you are correct. Yay! All right, this is the last one. I am a Barbadian singer. I have a makeup line and a clothing line. Technically, it's a lingerie line. I have been in films such as Ocean's 8 and Battleship. Who am I? I think that's pretty easy. That's so easy. If you guessed Rihanna, you are correct. Alrighty, so we have come to the end of our episode, and I know it might be a little short, but again, like I said, this is just an introductory episode. This is just me testing the waters and you getting to know me and me getting to know you, and me getting some feedback on what you liked and what you didn't like, and we'll take it from there. So again, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to listen to me ramble on about a bunch of stuff. And I just want you to know that I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. Thank you for taking this journey with me and into this new creative endeavor. And I hope you stay tuned for all of the more interesting things that I have coming that are planned and will probably be a lot better structured than this episode. But again, thank you for your support. Thank you for listening to me. Please like and subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts from. I am your host, Selena LeBron, and this is The Creative Insomniac.